27 years. Oh, you want to start first?
สวัสดีครับ Hello, hi Mabu, hi Ola, hi all the fans. Today I got a very special guest from USA. She's coming strong, she pretty, and she very competent. And also, don't mess with her because she got a law in her hands. Okay. So today I got Miss Kimberly Keen, Miss Alaska, Earth USA 2022, and she's going to share a lot of her perspective on many issues in the world, especially green agenda, very hot issue now. Okay, so please, all the fans, welcome my beautiful guest, Kimberly Keen. Hi, Kimberly. Just introduce yourself to the fans, please, worldwide.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Keen. I'm 27 years old. I'm a family law attorney. I'm Miss Alaska Earth 2021. I'm actually from and I currently live in San Diego, California. I got my bachelor's from UCLA in political science and my Juris Doctorate, or my law degree, from the University of San Diego School of Law. And this is actually my second pageant ever in my life, Miss Earth USA. So I'm really excited to be competing, and I'm so excited to meet all of you guys.
Hello. Sorry. I'm actually from and I currently live in San Diego, California. It's just interruption. Okay, keep on going. Sorry, indeed, Kimberly.
That's okay. Yeah, so I was just saying this is my my second time ever in a pageant in my life. And this is my first time competing in Miss Earth USA. So I'm super excited and I love meeting everybody who follows pageants. So it's really nice to be here.
Right. Okay, all the fans, Kimberly, very, well-rounded person, and she naturally a lover. Okay, so Kimberly, would you mind to give some highlights of your life so all the fans would, get some idea of where you get, the love, earth loving perspective with you. I mean, and also very deeply, according to your bio, you're very involved with environmental.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, so I would say that since I was a little girl, I've always loved nature. And that was one of the things that really brought me through a lot of hard times in my life, was being able to be outdoors and be around nature, be around animals, and learn more about the environment around me. And I felt the same way about people too. I found that when I was going through hard times, I leaned on other people. And so I've always prided myself in being very empathetic. And I think that's what's really helped me in my life. And I love it too because it's so rewarding. I love charity work. I love doing things that betters the world because it tends to make me feel better as well. And of course, I'm helping others in the process. So I think I just got that perspective from growing up and learning kind of the hard way through hard times, but learning for the best that, empathy and coming from a place of love and coming from a place of wanting to do good is always helpful to myself and to others.
Mm. And also, in the Bible said that you actually kept some stray cat as well. So, when it start?
Yeah, so when I was growing up, I just absolutely loved animals. So I used to go around my neighborhood and ring the doorbell of all of my neighbors in my neighborhood, not even just on my street. And I'd ask to walk their dogs for free. And that's what I would do growing up just because I loved being around animals so much. And so it didn't stop when there was a group of stray cats in my neighborhood that lived in the canyon near my house. And unfortunately, there's a lot of coyotes out here. So small pets tend to be eaten by them. And I knew that as a kid. So there was one cat in particular who I loved. He was a black cat, and we named him Salem but I convinced my parents to take him in. Of course, they were hesitant for a long time. They didn't want to take him in the house, but I absolutely loved him. And since then, I've kept adopting stray cats and rescue cats. I just think they're the best pets.
So, Kimberly, nowadays, I mean, it's quite a problem indeed. Not only in US, it's everywhere, especially in Asia as well. We got so many stray animal, roaming around, on the street, on the bush. So, according to your environmental perspective, so, what kind of um, measure would you recommend to like the government agency or charitable organization to to keep the world safe and also to to get all the animals some proper shelter?
That's a good question. It's a very big problem, stray animals, particularly in other countries. I found when I traveled that animals are not treated as well as they are in the States or some Western countries just because the cultural differences. And but I think even in those other countries, there's always some kind of humane society. So I know here in the States we have the Humane Society for stray animals, and they go around and they're happy to take your animals in and put them up for adoption. So I know that from traveling, there are similar agencies in other countries as well. So I would say that the best way to combat that problem, I mean, first of all, would be hopefully that people have enough empathy for stray animals and they do want to help them, even if they don't want to take them in, but also to support your local humane society or local animal organization that does do work to help strays.
Right. Kimberly, I think it's quite common now today in Western world that if anyone would love to get some pets, they tend to look around to the animal shelter first. But in Asia, we tend to go farm and buying first. Because we have some sort of stigma that if we pets or get like a stray dog or stray cat and pet them as our own, they might not be easily domesticated. Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And probably not be that lovely as we, pet them since birth or very young age by being bought from the farm. So, what would you give some idea to change that kind of stigma?
That stigma, I'm glad you brought that up because that is still a stigma in the US, but like you said, it's changing slowly. We have seen it become a little more trendy for people to adopt strays or rescues and pride themselves in that. But I think breaking the stigma comes from education, right? So I think educating people that they're animals just like your bred animal, your purebred animal. And I would say that mixed breeds tend to actually live longer and be healthier, so they can actually be some kind of better pet in that way. I don't want to say they're better than purebred, but they can be very good pets. And I think also there's so many resources for people to domesticate their animals. So of course it's easier for us to adopt animals that are younger because it's easier to acclimate them to our households and to humans if they're not used to that. But there's so many different ways that you can train pets. We have so many resources online, like with YouTube. We can train ourselves in a way to train our pets, and then we can also call on professionals. With the advent of social media and everybody using social media, we can look for people through there as well who are willing to help us. But I've seen some pretty horror story pets that have been able to be turned around for the better. It really just depends on your willingness to train them and to love them through everything.
Right. So, about would you agree about how most of most of the development country um, handle the stray cat, or not the stray cat actually, the stray animal, like when nobody step forward to show their ownership. those animals tend to be euthanized.
Hmm.
Um, so would you agree with this kind of handling?
No, I don't agree with euthanization at all. I think there's a place for every pet, no matter how bad they might behave now. Like I said, I've seen so many pets that really they were abused for most of their lives, so they behave a certain way, but they've been able to be turned around. It really just depends on the resources that we're willing to give to them and to spend on them. So I don't agree with euthanization. And actually, I believe Los Angeles just recently became the first county in the US. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it became one of the first counties or cities to uh, become a complete no-kill city, which means they're not euthanizing their animals in their shelters, which I think is so important. There's so many uses for, dogs and cats and stray animals, and it's really about us seeing their value. I see so much value in these animals, and I think it's also a societal thing here in the US. Like you've said, we've changed to see animals and stray animals as loving and something we want to take care of. In some other countries, we're not as fortunate to see that. But I think the shift is slowly happening. It tends to be that whatever the trend is in the US tends to kind of sweep through the rest of the world. So we might be lucky. And I think with more education and empathy and social media, sharing our messages through social media, we'll be able to, get that message across to other countries as well.
Right, Kimberly. Would you mind if I would like to translate to my Thai audience a little bit? Okay.
Sure,
I
no
also
problem.
Yes, because I think your view is very interesting indeed, and it can be very inspirational to a lot of animal lover, and also who about to be animal lover but still dubious about themselves, how to responsible for the animal. All right. And also I couldn't hear the name of the county clearly. What was the name of the county?
Los Angeles, LA.
Oh, Los Angeles โอเค right โอเคสวัสดีนะคะแฟนๆคนไทยคือคุณคิมเบอรรี่นะคะเป็นคนที่ฉลาดมากๆเลยนะประวัติเขาเนี่ยคือแบบสุดยอดน่ะก็คือแตงโมแน่นอนคืองี้ก็ได้สอบถามคุณคิมเบอรรี่นะคะหลายๆอย่างเนาะว่าคือเขาเนี่ยตั้งแต่เล็กเลยเนี่ยเป็นคนที่รักธรรมชาติมากๆนะก็ถามว่าความแบบเขาเรียกอะไรแรงบันดาลใจสิ่งเหล่านี้มาจากไหนเขาบอกมาจากครอบครัวเอ่เขาแบบว่าเป็นครอบครัวเขาเนี่ยจะอยู่ใกล้ธรรมชาติแล้วก็รักธรรมชาตินะคะแล้วคราวนี้เนี่ยก็ถามผมว่าเขาเป็นทนายความนะคะตัวอาชีพนะอายุ27เป็นทนายความแล้วก็ได้ถามเขาเป็นคนที่รักสัตว์แล้วคราวนี้โก้เขาบอกว่าได้ข่าวว่าเขาเนี่ยได้เลี้ยงสัตว์จรนะก็คือแมวนะคะตามประวัติเขาเนี่ยเอาแมวจรนะมาเลี้ยงเลยก็บอกว่าเนี่ยอย่างทางเมืองนอกเนี่ยมันก็ค่อนข้างนะเป็นที่ยอมรับมากกว่าก็คืออย่างเช่นเวลาคนจะเลี้ยงสัตว์เนี่ยเขาจะไปดูตามศูนย์พักพิงสัตว์นะครับจรจัดอะไรอย่างเงี้ยแล้วก็คือจะไปเลือกสัตว์มาคราวนี้เนี่ยก็เลยบอกว่ามีวิธีแก้ปัญหาไหมในฐานะที่หนึ่งเขาเป็นมิสเอิร์ธนะครับ阿拉斯าตัวแทน阿拉斯านะครับในการประกวด Miss Earth USA และฐานะเป็นทนายความและในฐานะที่เป็นคนรักสัตว์ถามว่าเนี่ยปัญหาที่แบบสัตว์เนี่ยสัตว์จรเยอะเนาะแล้วก็ทั่วโลกโดยเฉพาะเนี่ยทางเอเชียบ้านเราเนี่ยมันจะมีความคิดที่ยังรู้สึกติดขัดอยู่ว่าเนี่ยเวลาจะเลี้ยงสัตว์เนี่ยเราไม่อยากจะไปแบบเลี้ยงสัตว์จรหรือว่าไปเอาสัตว์ตามศูนย์พักพิงนะครับเราจะซื้อฟาร์มเลยถามว่าเนี่ยเขาจะอินสปายหรือว่าให้คำแนะนำแรงบันดาลใจไงให้คนเปลี่ยนความคิดว่าเนี่ยการที่เราสัตว์จรมาเลี้ยงเนี่ยก็ไม่ใช่ว่าสัตว์จรเนี่ยจะเหมือนกับแบบไม่ซื่อสัตย์นะหรือว่าโหดร้ายดุร้ายเลี้ยงยากอะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะมันไม่ใช่แบบนั้นคือเขาบอกว่าสิ่งสำคัญเลยคืออยู่ที่การศึกษาหรือการที่ให้ความรู้เพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยเขาบอกว่าก็อยากให้มีการให้ความรู้ที่ถูกต้องกับประชาชนมากขึ้นว่าการเลี้ยงสัตว์เนี่ยเลี้ยงสัตว์จรหรือช่วยชีวิตสัตว์เนี่ยนะมันดีกับธรรมชาติด้วยแล้วก็อยากให้มองว่าสัตว์เขาก็มีหัวใจนะอะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะครับนะเขาก็พูดตามนี้แล้วก็ถามเขาว่าเห็นคือในต่างประเทศนะคะว่าถ้าสมมุติเนี่ยสัตว์จรหรือว่าอย่างคุณเลี้ยงสัตว์แล้วเกิดคุณจะมูฟจะไปไหนเงี้ยแล้วทิ้งเขาไว้ คือเขาก็จะมีกำหนดนะครับตามหาเจ้าของแต่ถ้าสมมุติว่าไม่มีใครแบบมารับเลยก็คือว่าต้องโดนฆ่านะครับคือวางยาสลบนะครับก็ถามยูแทนไนซ์นะก็ถามเขาว่าเห็นด้วยไหมวิธีการนี้เขาบอกเขาไม่เห็นด้วยเลยเขาไม่เห็นด้วยมากๆเลยนะอะไรเงี้ยคือแบบสัตว์ก็มีหัวใจนะคืออยากให้มันเลิกตรงนี้ไปคราวนี้เขาก็พูดด้วยความภาคภูมิใจว่าลอสแอนเจลิสคาวตี้นะคะเป็นคาวตี้แรกนะครับในประเทศเลยนะของอเมริกานะที่ไม่มี no killing นะคะคือไม่มีการฆ่าเด็ดขาดถึงแม้จะตามหาเจ้าของไม่เจอเลยแล้วกำหนดเวลาเขาก็จะไม่ฆ่านะคะคือตามปกติเราจะต้องฆ่านะพุทดาวเนาะซึ่งในเมืองไทยเนาะเทศบาลเนี่ยก็รู้สึกจะเริ่มทำเนอะไอ้ช่วงตอนที่ไล่ฉีดวัคซีนเมื่อประมาณ2 ปีที่แล้วนะคะที่แบบคนรักสัตว์คนไทยแล้วเราเป็นเมืองพุทธเนาะเราก็รับไม่ค่อยได้เนาะก็ร้องกันซึ่งก็ไม่เห็นด้วยนะตรงนี้นะคือคุณคิมเบอร์รี่ก็บอกเขาไม่เห็นด้วยแล้วเขาก็อยากจะให้มีการให้ความรู้อะไรมากขึ้นเหมือนว่าให้คนกับสัตว์เนี่ยอยู่ร่วมกันได้มากขึ้นนะครับตรงนี้เนาะคือเขาให้ความสำคัญอันนี้ so Kimberly according to your profession I know that you caught sort of a familiar lawyer but because we talking about the earth environmental aspect and also animal okay which closely related with each other so as a lawyer would you would you agree like to implement some sort of penalty or punishment for the owner or like the farm operator who left the animal they breed whenever they want just when they quit they just left premises and left animal they bred and they all like poorly hygienic and tend to be contagious with so many disease and I don't know about US but in Asia especially in Thailand we haven't got like a hashed penalty for this so I would love to get your perspective according to your profession so what kind of advice to handle this kind of irresponsible uh-huh farm operator
Yeah, so there are a lot of laws against animal cruelty, and there's a lot of regulations in the US that regulate and make sure that animals that are purebred have certain are meeting certain specifications and things like that. But yeah, you're right that in a lot of Asian countries and a lot of other countries in the world don't have those regulations. So I think it is important, especially as a lawyer and somebody who is in this platform with Miss Earth USA, that I do bring awareness, and that's part of my mission here is to bring awareness and continue to bring awareness to these issues across the world. And I know it's a sensitive topic because in other cultures, they may not want to change the way the West does things or the way the United States does things. And I think that there's validity in that, honestly. I think as Americans, we're very used to implementing our values on others that we think is right, and we kind of just think, oh yes, it's right objectively, so you have to adopt it as well. There's issues with that, but I do think that there are some things that most of us can agree on that are wrong. And so I don't know the specific examples that you're referring to, but it sounds like if there are people who are, or there's people who are breeding animals and they're abusing them or leaving them in unhygienic conditions, there absolutely should be more of a push to make sure that laws are passed internationally as well, especially because I don't know if you're aware, your audience is aware, but when certain laws are passed by the United Nations and then countries are signed on to those laws, they become binding on those countries as well. So that could be something that we push for as well, is when we can't get something to be passed domestically in those countries, we can look to international bodies like the United Nations to kind of push for them a little bit more.
Yes, I think so. I totally agree with your idea. I think nowadays, I just don't want to see country as an individual. Okay, I just would like to perceive every country like one of a member of global community. So I think we all entitled to look after each other. So for me, if there would be some issue, gravely, happened in other country, which I think is not right. I tend to think that we entitled to voice out instead of them. Because we one of global community, and sometimes we need to come into force to make something happen. Otherwise, the upper hand probably will misuse their power. Sort of. So I totally agree with you that if a lot of countries come together and push the law into the internationally recognized landscape, and it would be implemented throughout. I think a lot of, I mean, you know, one who got substandard on what they're doing will be more aware when they're going to operate something. You know, at least they would do something with probity, and decency. So
Right.
yeah, I totally agree with you, Kimberly. คือ
Can
นี้
I
นะค
just
รับ
add something too?
yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think you make an important point there. And I agree with you as well. I mean, that's kind of how societal norms are changed throughout the world, right? Is that we come together, and even though maybe some people or some nations are resistant, there's a collective group of people who know that, yeah, there's going to be resistance to change, any change, good or bad, but it's for the greater good, so we should still push for it. So I think you're correct.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So I totally agree. May I translate to my
Yeah, go ahead.
because I really enjoy okay on what you're talking คืออย่างนี้นะคะแฟนๆก็ถามว่าคุณคิมเบอรรี่เนี่ยเราจะทำยังไงให้เหมือนกับแบบบางทีเนาะอย่างประเทศไทยเนี่ยเห็นปัญหาเนาะว่าคนที่ทำฟาร์มสัตว์เนี่ยหรือบางทีเพาะสัตว์ใช่ไหมคะแล้วปรากฏว่าพอเศรษฐกิจไม่ดีใช่ไหมก็คือทิ้งสัตว์ให้แบบว่าแบบว่าทิ้งฟาร์มทิ้งอะไรย้ายบ้านไปเฉยๆแต่ว่าทิ้งสัตว์ในกรงแล้วก็คือแบบสัตว์ก็แบบสภาพแบบกลายเป็นสัตว์พิการติดโรคติดอะไรอย่างเงี้ยน่าสงสารมากแล้วคือกฎหมายบ้านเรามันเบาก็ถามว่าในฐานะที่เขาเป็นนักกฎหมายซึ่งจริงเขาเป็นนักกฎหมายด้านครอบครัวนะคะก็เลยถามว่าในฐานะที่เขาเป็นผู้ใช้กฎหมายเนี่ยนะคะแบบว่าเรียนรู้ด้านกฎหมายโดยตรงเขามีมุมมองไงพอจะแนะนำในการที่แบบสร้าง awareness หรือแก้ปัญหาได้ไหมเขาบอกว่าคือถ้าอย่างนี้เนี่ยนะเขาอยากให้เป็นอย่างนี้เลยว่าคือให้มันผลักดันให้มันกฎหมายanimal cruelty นะคะก็คือทารุณสัตว์ทารุณกรรมสัตว์นะคือให้มันเป็นแบบเหมือนเป็นเรื่องใหญ่ไปเลยก็คือช่วยกันพุชไปในระดับนานาชาติเข้า UN เข้าอะไรไปเลยแล้วก็คือบังคับใช้ทุกประเทศเลยที่เป็นสมาชิก UN คือโอเคถ้าคุณจะอย่างนี้คุณจะเพาะเลี้ยงสัตว์คุณต้องมีสแตนดาร์ดนี้แล้วถ้าคุณทำอย่างนี้คุณจะทิ้งมันไปเฉยแล้วมันเกิดโรคกับคุณจะต้องเจออย่างนี้มันจะมีบทลงโทษชัดเจนโดนแบนไหมอะไรไหมมันต้องเป็นอย่างนี้นะครับคราวนี้โก้ก็เลยพูดกับทางคิมเบอรรี่เขาบอกโหเห็นด้วยมากๆเลยแล้วโก้มองว่าโก้บอกว่าโก้ไม่ได้มองประเทศใดประเทศหนึ่งเป็นประเทศแยกนะโก้มองว่าประเทศใดประเทศหนึ่งเนี่ยก็เป็นส่วนหนึ่งของโลกใบนี้นะครับคือเราทุกคนเนี่ยเหมือนเป็นสมาชิกหนึ่งในสังคมโลกเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยคือเรามีสิทธิ์ที่จะเข้าใจนะคะมีความเห็นอกเห็นใจหรือเข้าไปแสดงความคิดเห็นในเรื่องที่ประเทศเพื่อนบ้านหรือประเทศในโลกนี้เขาเดือดร้อนได้โดยส่วนตัวโก้นะก็คืออาจจะเป็นภาษาเนี่ยโก้ไม่ถือว่าเป็นการเผือกนะคะโก้ถือว่าบางครั้งประเทศบางประเทศเขาไม่มีคนในประเทศเขาไม่มีเสียงมากพอนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยจะให้คนในประเทศเขามาร้องมันไม่ได้เพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยทุกประเทศเนี่ยมันต้องมาช่วยกันอย่างเช่นใครเนี่ยที่ใช้อำนาจในทางที่ผิดผู้มีอำนาจเนี่ยก็คือทุกประเทศเนี่ยต้องมาร้องได้จัดการได้ร่วมกันจัดการร่วมพลังกันจัดการ drive เข้าไปนะคะผลักดันเข้าไปคือมันอย่างเงี้ยมันสามารถทำเกิดผลได้ซึ่งเขาบอกว่าใช่เลยที่โก้พูดถูกต้องเลยทุกคนมันต้องมา collective นะก็คือมาร่วมกันเป็นร่วมพลังกันแล้วมาสามัคคีกันแล้วมันจะทำให้เกิดการเปลี่ยนแปลงแน่นอนทุกคนน่ะมันไม่ชอบการเปลี่ยนแปลงโดยเฉพาะคนที่มันอยู่กับความที่มัน ไม่ค่อยมันไม่ค่อยดีเขาจะไม่ชอบการเปลี่ยนแปลงเพราะฉะนั้นมันต้องมีการต่อต้านเพราะฉะนั้นการที่เราจะลบล้างการต่อต้านไปได้คืออะไรเราต้องร่วมพลังกันครับนะทุกประเทศในโลกนี้แหละนะถ้าเห็นใครทำไม่ดีใช่ไหมทุกประเทศมันมารวมกันคือแบบฟอร์สเลยบีบเลยแล้วจะทำให้ไอแรงต้านของคนมีอำนาจในประเทศหนึ่งเนี่ยมันกลายเป็นเล็กนิดเดียวนะคะแล้วมันจะเกิดการเปลี่ยนแปลงคือว่าทุกอย่างเนี่ยถ้าเพื่อการเปลี่ยนแปลงที่มันดีกว่าถึงแม้มันจะมีแรงต้านเราก็ต้องผลักดันอันนี้คือคุณเคมเบอรี่นะคือเป็นให้คำแนะนำนะครับคือเป็นคนที่ฉลาดมากๆเลยอ่ะแบบเก่งมากๆนะความคิดเขา so Kimberly also I'm wondering, okay, it might be controversial for you, okay? It's okay if you wouldn't like to answer me, but it's just from my own perspective, and it's quite sort of from our cultural differences, okay? So I might not get proper understanding about how you doing. Okay, so according to your bio, your parents was a hunter, but also um, was a wildlife conservationist.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, in my perspective, okay, I'm Asian, I'm Buddhist too. I'm against killing. So it's quite contrast, very paradoxical, you know. How to how do you conserve, why you killing as well, and
Yeah.
uh, what I mean, what did you gain from hunting?
Yeah, so I just want to clarify that I don't hunt, but my dad hunted. So I've
Yes,
never hunted before because I
yes.
agree I don't like killing animals. But but no, I actually gained a great respect for my dad and for the practice of hunting through him. So I find this very different in that respect. None of my family hunts except for him. So most of them kind of look at him crazy, like, why are you doing this? And this is so wrong. And I think we all have our different personal perspectives. But I know it's kind of paradoxical, right? To see he's a hunter and a wildlife conservationist. But I think what a lot of people don't realize in defense of hunters is that they a lot of times they pay when they pay to hunt or they pay the rancher, they're actually also paying to conserve the nature on that ranch. So it's a private land, and then they're able to kind of buy a license to hunt on it. But they're also contributing to this land being able to be open to people to hunt on and actually conserving the animal populations there that out in the wild wouldn't have existed. So it's kind of paradoxical, right? Because you're paying to kill these animals while also paying to conserve them. I know it sounds crazy, but that is the case. That you can actually have both in one. It sounds weird, but it's true. So yeah, I think personally, I don't like to hunt. I love animals, so it's sad, but there's a lot of people who do like to hunt, and in defense of them, it is something that's traditional, that's gone back in our human history for thousands and thousands of years, and it was used to survive. I don't condone trophy hunting. I think what my dad hunts, we all eat. So we do make use of the animal, and I think that's the only way that I support hunting as well, is to actually use it in a way where you are making use of the animal. If you're not eating it, then you're giving it to someone less fortunate who can eat the animal. So I know it's kind of a hot topic because a lot of people don't like hunting, especially in this day and age. But I will defend hunters in a few ways, and that's one of them.
Right. Okay. So, Kimberly, I'm sorry indeed if I put pressure on you. It's just my curiosity. You
That's
know.
okay. I put it in my bio. It's fair game.
Okay. So, sorry, Daddy. Okay, I wouldn't. I wouldn't meant to hurt you. Okay, it's just cultural differences, so I wouldn't gain the same view as what you're doing over there. That's why I would love
Yes.
you to clarify on the point. And now I understand. Okay, no problem need. Uh-huh. And also, Kimberly, would you think that your profession have some affiliation to advocate for the betterment of environment?
Yeah, so Well, I can go back a little bit. So when I was in law school, I actually was on the executive board of the Journal of Climate and Energy Law. So as a comment editor, so I was heavily involved in writing and editing law students and professors and other law practitioners um, articles about the environment, environmental law and policy in California and throughout the US. So that environmental law and environmentalism has something I've always been interested in, and I did pursue that a bit in law school. Now, of course, I'm in family law, so it's not related directly to the environment. But I will say that I find the reason I was attracted to family law was because I wanted to advocate and better the lives of people who were in already a very tumultuous situation. Most of family law, involves issues that are very hard. It's divorce, it's losing your child in a custody battle. None of it is really easy. There's a lot of issues with domestic violence and things like that. But so I found that, I thrive on being able to help other people in a stressful scenario and trying to make it as less stressful as possible for them and give them the best outcomes. And related to the environment, I find that when we're happy, when we're more in harmony with one another and our lives can be as happy as they can be, then we are more in harmony with the environment. So we're more able to help each other out. We're more able to do what's right for the environment. Generally speaking, you're not going to find someone who's very dissatisfied with their life picking up trash on the weekends and trying to make the world a better place, or feeling sorry for things in the environment that are going downhill. They're just kind of going to feel sorry for themselves. So if we help those people to feel better about their lives and get them out of stressful situations, we bring the family unit together as a whole. We can help bring humanity together as a whole, and then we can help the environment.
Right, right. Uh-huh. Kimberly, don't you think nowadays when we mentioned about right and environmental issue, I found that quite many sophisticated lady nowadays try to link between women rights and environmental issue. So, would you think that if women have a more pronounced role in the world and the environmental situation in the world would be better as well?
Absolutely. So I'm a huge advocate for women's rights. I actually volunteer for a foundation as well on the side that advocates for victims of domestic violence in the Middle East and victims of terrorism in the Middle East, particularly ISIS victims. And then every day, of course, in family law, I work for victims of domestic violence to help them get restraining orders against their abusers. And I've found that absolutely women have this inherent quality that they're very empathetic and they tend to have an intuition that most men, I would say, don't possess. And so I have found in my personal life that, women are more, I don't know if they're more caring towards the environment than men. I wouldn't say that, but they definitely have a tendency to look into things in a more kind of emotional way. And I think that's our strength. And we follow our intuition. So we're able to look at issues in the environment and say, maybe I want to help that. Maybe I want to see that get better. And that maternal instinct definitely helps further environmental efforts for sure. I've noticed that in my life as well.
Right, right. And also, you mentioned, I would love to step a little bit outside an environment issue a little bit, okay? Because
Mhm.
I'm really, into your profession, because your profession contribute a lot to the society. Uh-huh. So
Thank you.
nowadays, especially family issue, I really, touched by when you mentioned about um, like parenting custody battle. So I would like to know about your view. Um, how to get like a domestic violence situation under control. you know.
Mm-hmm.
And also how both of parents come to sort of reconciliation point, that to agree on custody term that would give less effects on their child.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, how I personally try to ratchet down the emotions in domestic violence situations is I really try to be an empathetic listener to every client. So, even if I disagree with what they're saying, or if I don't believe them necessarily that their story is true, I still understand that they're going through a really rough time. And I've gone through very rough times in my life, and I'm sure I've been a nightmare to deal with. So, I have a lot of empathy for the clients, no matter how stressed out or mean they are that day. Most of them aren't actually mean. They're just kind of, very emotional. Emotions are high. So I try to be a very empathetic listener. I find it very rewarding at the end of a phone call if, I've talked to a client or a potential client and I've, listened to them and I've let them be heard, and they tend to calm down a bit. And once you set out a game plan for them, they tend to feel a little more confident, a little bit less stressed. And that's really rewarding for me. That's a lot of the reason why I continue to do family law, because even though it's pretty stressful, those moments are very rewarding for me. And then I think you had a second question about child custody. I don't remember quite what it was. Can you repeat the second part?
Pardon? Oh,
The
okay.
second part of your question of
I mean, I mean, sometimes I feel really sorry because the child is so innocent, and there has
right.
been the sense of wrangling, and each party try to use them like like pretext to get their own interest. So how would you find some like reconciliation point that both of them can agree easily, by put the interest of the child as the
Yeah,
optimum. Yeah, not
that's
like
a that's a
I would love to get this sort of expense per month. Otherwise, I just can't live, and also I haven't got income to pay you, sort of. I mean, I just would like the welfare of the child is the
mhm.
first priority. So, according to your profession, you has been experience a lot of case, I think, and you see a lot of problem. So, if you got a chance or power to change anything, um, what would you recommend, or would you intend to implement to get the situation on the custody battle under control, or actually, I mean, to be the best for the child?
So I'm lucky in that California courts, in particular San Diego courts, the judges really want the parties to come to an agreement before they litigate. So they very much prioritize, let's try to come to an agreement. They have to go to family court services if they don't have another outside mediator. And basically what they do is it's just a court mediator. They sit down with them and they essentially just, they hash it out. They say, what would you like with the child? What's your optimal plan? And then they try to come to a middle ground. And then ultimately, if those things if an agreement can't be reached, then they will litigate. And so the
Mhm.
law does favor coming to an agreement, but unfortunately, the reality is that, of course, most parents don't, as you can imagine, because you're in a very contentious situation. Your child is you're about to lose seeing your child half the time. I mean, that's hard for anybody, no matter how nice or amazing you think the other parent is. That's going to be hard, or how fair you think the agreement is. That's still going to be hard. That's the reality. So I think just encouraging, I do think the court does a really good job now of encouraging more litigants who are representing themselves. So they have a lot of information online available to them. They make a lot of services free for them through the court. I think that's a great start. It's family law is just messy by nature, so it's hard to really say what's a perfect solution to these things. But I do think that encouraging agreements, as the court does now, and making prioritizing agreements over litigation is a good start. Like I said, I think the reality is a little bit different, but time will tell. I think definitely that's what I want to continue doing as an attorney, is encouraging that coming together of families rather than encouraging differences, but highlighting similarities, and trying to come to the least contentious result that you can.
Right, right. And also, what is the most urgent issue according to environment in the world today, based on your perspective, Kimberly?
I think whoever you ask, they're going to say something different. But honestly, I really think the most important environmental issue today is the offshore oil leaks. So, offshore oil drilling is a part of that, but oil spills are a huge issue. And it's something that really gets buried. Sometimes it comes up when there is an oil spill, then we all hear about it, but it is something that happens all the time, and it's unfortunately because of these fossil fuels, and ways that we're extracting fossil fuels from the oceans and underneath, that is causing these. Just recently, there was a huge oil spill in Huntington Beach, just about an hour away from where I live. That's encouraged my platform, my initiative, Oceana Project, where I've done a lot of efforts and continue to do work for helping that particular oil spill. But in doing that, I've learned that it doesn't just affect the ocean. It doesn't just affect the marine life. I mean, it affects the ocean and the marine life for years and years. I mean, oil and sheen it stays in the ocean for hundreds of years. And besides that, it does hurt humans as well, because when we're walking on the beach, we're inhaling these fumes. We're eating these fish, we're swimming in these oceans. So ultimately, oil spills don't just affect marine life, but they affect humans as well. And so it's a big issue, and it's something that it's very interesting, because there's times when there's an oil spill that's kind of small, and then we think, oh well, okay, well that's not that bad, so we'll wait, but then you wait, and then something else happens, and a pipeline leaks, which is what happened in Huntington Beach from a ship anchor. Little things like that, something will happen, and then there's this giant oil spill, and then all of a sudden we have an issue again. And it's just something that kind of shouldn't be an issue nowadays, where people are pressing so much for more of these, to abandon fossil fuels altogether, and to prohibit offshore oil drilling. These are things that really need to come into play, especially because we're getting into that time where that should be the norm, because we really don't need to have these environmental disasters anymore.
That's right. So, Kimberly, I mean, it's a big issue indeed, especially for the ordinary, okay, people who living in the surrounding that prone to the oil leak. But
Mm-hmm.
so, what should I mean? If they always have the question, Kimberly, what should they can do? I mean, what can they do? Because they're just a small and tiny, citizen, but they just look up and try to fight with a massive enterprise. Uh-huh.
Right.
And yep. And most of the time it wouldn't go anywhere. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. The outcry. So as you're a lawyer and also an loving advocate, so what would you what kind of initiative or um, measure would you start to get them reminded that there's a lot of people affected from their business dealing doing activity.
So there's ways we can do this on a couple different levels. There's of course the push for business and the business sector to become more sustainable and reliant on clean energy. This comes from us, but it also comes from, just the business sector. And I think, some companies are doing a great job of pushing for that. The great thing is it's kind of become a trendy thing. So, more businesses are pushing for sustainability. So that's one way in the business sector. But for us, on the ground who aren't Jeff Bezos and other tech owners, and, we want to help the environment too, but maybe we don't have the influence. That's really where on the ground activism really helps. So there's so many foundations out there that kind of do the dirty work for us. So, we want to pass a bill. Well, how do we do that? Do we write to our legislatures? Sometimes we can, but, like you said, it usually just kind of gets on their desk and then they look at it and, okay, maybe I'll do something about that. Maybe I won't. But I think that's why it's so important. And this is what I advocate for and work on with my initiative Oceana Project as well, is I really cherish and emphasize and encourage the partnership with on the ground organizations who already have the tools that we don't have. So organizations like the Surfrider Foundation, Pacific Mammal Marine Center, these are a couple of organizations that I've worked with or worked on behalf of with my initiative. So, they will organize beach cleanups. They'll tell you exactly where to report oil spills. So they already have the resources for you. Also, sometimes small government organizations or departments will help do that as well. I know the the California Department of Fish and Wildlife had a big initiative. They were flooded with people who were trying to volunteer to help with that oil spill. So these organizations and these governmental departments have the tools. We just have to be sure to utilize them. And then I wanted to mention Surfrider Foundation as well. They're very big in legislation advocacy. So, it's not just you or a couple of your friends writing to a legislator. You're writing with, hundreds or thousands of people on this petition. You're attending town halls. You're working from the very local level all the way up to, the national U.S. Congress level. So I think that in some, how we can help that as, ordinary people and people who don't have a lot of pull is that we really need to encourage that partnership with these organizations who have the tools ready for us and have the information ready for us. We just need to support them and ultimately, join in on their initiatives as well.
Right. Okay, so Kimberly, a lot of fans wouldn't realize that you actually a human rights advocate as well. I'm really impressed indeed from what you're helping or like a victim in the war. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so might you tell all the fans a little bit what kind of involvement that you had during the process?
Yeah, so I'm currently a volunteer. I have been for probably about a year now with an organization called Gian Foundation for Human Rights, and they're based in Europe. They just opened a U.S. office, but they advocate for victims of ISIS who were victims of sexual violence and to continue to heal. So they're really focused on that sexual violence aspect of, trauma survivors from ISIS, particularly in Iraq. So that's who I've been working on behalf of for a while, volunteering on behalf of for a while. And just recently we were editing and coming together with a draft legislation to introduce to the Iraqi parliament in order to address the trauma that particularly Yazidi women victims faced. And we were able to get that on their desk. They were too considerate, and the United Nations, I believe, passed a resolution that because of efforts like Gian Foundation and other organizations, we were able to get that passed in Iraq, which is really, really cool, the Yazidi Survivors Bill. I wrote an article on that in Elle, actually. So if you want to go to elle.com, you could read about it. So that was really exciting. But yeah, I'm really passionate about that organization, and I'm passionate about that issue. It's really something, unfortunately, that, when wars happen, people, care while it's happening, when it's on the news. And then once it dies down, the victims are still victims, right? I mean, they're not healed. They're victims forever, and they have kids, and a lot of times their villages are torn and they don't hardly have a place to live. They don't have infrastructure. So the trauma lives on, and that's something that, organizations like Gian Foundation helps. So we're not just rebuilding the individual, we're rebuilding their families and hopefully helping get concrete measures back into place so that they can go back to school and live a healthy life again, and not just worried about fleeing or being refugees, but coming back home and utilizing and living a normal life.
Right. So it's really interesting indeed. And also, what would you say to that? I think plenty local people who still resist to accept the influx of victim. Especially in Europe or in some Asian country that they flee from their home country, from they stay away from war, violence, and hardship, and killing sort of, and they have to jump on board, and
Hmm.
has been risk their lives at the middle of ocean, and once they got to shore, they try to be pushed away back to the ocean again by the local official, or that nation, or even local people. So as you got hands-on experience with other victims, and you see, like, the reason behind they have to free. So what would you say to someone that wouldn't have some close look as you, to have them gain more sympathy, and probably would get more understanding, and will be more embracing of someone who have lesser fortune than them.
I think it's important that, of course, we all develop a sense of empathy and sympathy throughout our lives. For some people, it's a little harder than others, and I don't blame them. It's not, not everyone is comfortable with having people come into their country, and maybe they're not familiar so much with their culture, and things like that. But I would say that, of course, it's for the greater good that we do accept these people and we do make sure that they're taken care of. Ultimately, when they're taken care of, whether it's here in our country or it's there in their country beforehand, we lessen the problems, right? So if they're taken care of in their country and we're helping them out there, then they're less likely to flee and come here. And if they do happen to flee and come here, and we help them out here, then they're less likely to commit crimes and cause harm and things that we're afraid of that refugees might do here, right? So either way, I think the solution, no matter if it's on our soil or theirs, the solution is really to take a critical look at the problem and find concrete solutions. And ultimately, that requires helping other people. Whether you like it or not, it does require looking critically at what's going on and actually investing in solutions.
Right, right. And also, that's all. If anyone, get used to look, or read the international article, you might, stumble by a lot of complaint, which coming with immigration taken, like garbage, and disorder disorderly behavior sort of. So as you, according to your profession, and also your loving nature, how can you contest to those people that, okay, those immigrant, those foreign people come with unfavorable behavior, they wouldn't be in order, and also they try to lead everywhere, that's cause a lot of environmental issues. So, what would you say on this?
I think I would say something similar to what I said to your previous question, and that is that either way, we do have to invest in some solution to the problem, and that requires helping these people in some way, So if that's making sure that their country is safe and investing in a military presence there, which not everyone agrees with, then maybe that's the solution. If it involves more, international aid in helping, them afford food, afford education, afford opportunities in their country, maybe it comes in that form. And then if they come here, it still requires maybe sometimes that, they're coming over here and they just don't know the culture. I mean, there's a lot of countries where littering is just kind of the common thing, and for lack of a better word, the common thing. And people, I mean, I don't mean to patronize them or anything, but that is the case. And so, maybe we could invest in certain programs to help them learn, okay, here we're not supposed to litter, and here's some help in that, and a lot of times refugees might be littering because they have to, they don't have much, and then they don't have access to certain waste receptacles that we do, especially if you're homeless. There's not a whole lot of places that you can, throw your trash out. So I would say either way, we do still, as the citizens of these countries, we do have to invest in their well-being. So it might not be just giving them aid and letting them be on their own. It might be actually looking at the problem more deeply, and but either way, investing in some ways to get them acclimated to our culture, or in a way to get them back on their feet in their own countries.
Right. So, as you experience with the foundations, I just want to know, like, all the refugee or asylum seeker, when they reached the new land, would they have some sort of etiquette lessons about the new territory they tend to live or reside in the future?
I think it depends on what their situation was. So if there are legal refugees, and then there are so-called illegal refugees. There are people who come here on. I'm talking specifically with the U.S. There are people who come here with refugee visas, which is legal, and then there are people who come here illegally, which is just without a refugee visa or without status, legal status. So it really depends, I think, on the individual. So some people are coming in boats, and they're coming on the on the shore, and they don't have lessons. They're trying to run from and flee from the government that was oppressing them, or the people that were oppressing them in their nations. And they're just coming here, literally fresh off the boat, trying to figure out how to survive. And then there are other people, of course, who there are integration programs in the US. So if you come here legally, we do supply through our government with programs. I only know this because I was in immigration too, so that's why I know these things. In law school, I was in immigration, but which I love, and this is making me want to go back to immigration. But so we supply different kind of cultural classes and things like that. So it really depends on their situation. But like I said, I think, like I said before, it's still important that we pay attention, and not just forget about these people, because ultimately, if they are coming to this society with habits that you don't like, well, then maybe you should, invest in trying to change that behavior, or help them with whatever they need help with in terms of in how to change that behavior. So, yeah, I would say that it ultimately depends on how they come here, what their personal situation is. But ultimately, it's really up to us and them, but up to us as well, the people who have the power and the resources to help. It's really incumbent on us to help.
And also, it's very significant question in my mind very long time, but I haven't found the right person to ask with. Okay, and now today I found you. Okay, because you're a lawyer, you're a lady, and you're a human right advocate, and you are women right advocates. Okay, aside from environmental advocates. So for the last few years, all the world, witness like some policy of a U.S. official which separate a mother and kids,
Hmm.
who illegally um, got across the border. So, according to you, and you concise, would you agree with that? Or if you wouldn't agree, do you have any recommendation to make the situation more, more like family friendly,
Yeah.
and and encouraging love and unity more than the previous one.
I agree that I think it's very important that we do encourage keeping families together, especially people who are coming here legally or illegally. Of course, there were some issues with that because some immigrants do come here under the guise of their families, but they're actually, they'll say, I'm the father of these two children, but really they're not the father of those two children. And then those children also could be put at risk because they're potentially with they're minors and they're with a man who's a stranger and he could be abusing them and things like that, so there is that risk as well. But I think that there are ways to combat that without separating the legitimate families, right? Because we do have procedures to help identify, like taking DNA tests and things like that, to see that, okay, are you really the parent? And if you are, then you can stay together, and if you're not, then you should be separate if they're different genders, different ages, and things like that. But I agree that for the families who are legitimately together, they shouldn't be subjected to being separate because there's maybe not enough space, or because they don't want to perform that check, or they just kind of want to assume that maybe it's easier to assume that they're not related, so we're just going to separate them. I think that it is important to keep in mind, that these people still are people, and they're coming from a really rough. I mean, even if they're not fleeing some terrible war in their country, I mean, it is hard to get to this country illegally. It's really hard. I mean, if you're not trekking thousands of miles on foot and hardly without any water, I mean, you're making or you're making flights, all the way across the world, and you're hiding from people. I mean, it's not easy at all. So we still need to take into consideration that these people really want to be here. They're not. Most of these people aren't coming here because they're thinking they want. There are criminals who come here, obviously, but there are also a lot of people who come here because they really want to be here. And so it's important to prioritize the family and make sure that we're still empathetic to immigrants and refugees, because they are still people. It's important we don't forget that.
Right, right. And also, Kimberly, I mean, in some research, not some research, I mean, most of finding, when we come down to environmental survey or something, they tend to like, some graph and said what kind of industry, emit sort of pollution more sort of. So would you agree that every country should impose an environmental tax on the business entity? Especially the last one, like to make it like a ladder tax. The more emission you spread, the higher penalty or fee or tax you got to pay.
I think that's an idea. I haven't looked into it, so I can't say yes or no. But I know that right now that there are, at least in California, there are tax credits. So if you're using your environment, or you're being sustainable and you're utilizing environmentalism and you reduce your carbon emissions, that you do get a credit on your taxes. I think that's a great way to encourage environmentalism, and I think it's important going forward to encourage environmentalism rather than penalize those who aren't sticking with it. I think that's probably just a better way, at least to start, because people generally respond more positively to being rewarded than having to be punished. So I think more kind of tax credits, and in California does a great job with encouraging that. And not just monetarily, but in other ways. I think we are working towards there slowly but surely through advertising and social media. Like I said, it's kind of become a little more trendy to be sustainable. So those things I think really help, and I think it's important to encourage rather than penalize, at least to begin with.
Mm, okay. You gave me, a different idea indeed, because I forgot that actually human nature would love something positive, right? So if we kind of propose tax credit, I think it would be more productive result than penalize them. Yeah, I totally agree. And I'll come back a little bit of your oily concern. Would you think that if like the large business, I mean, the leaking industry, then they try to, okay, we're going to take care of oil leak and expense sort of, and then uh, this expense has been pushed toward the customer like us, the citizen, ordinary citizen, by the oil price has been high,
Hmm.
I mean, according to you, because you very vocal on oil leak protection or prevention, but again you also ordinary citizens would pay
Right.
for a few also, and also a lawyer as well. So what would you have any any proposal to make all the thing balanced by don't push too much burden extra on the customer like us?
Right. Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that's the big contention with environmentalism is you pointed it out that, we all want to help the environment, but not all of us can afford it. And, it's kind of like eating healthy. We all want to eat healthy and be great, but not all of us can afford Whole Foods every day, or afford
Yes.
vegan food every day. Yeah. And so that's why I think it's very important to keep encouraging businesses in particular, at the business level, so it's the macro level, really encouraging them to promote sustainability. So I think a lot of with how this works is businesses will see that, okay, the consumer is wanting, they're demanding a more environmental option or a more environmental alternative. They're more likely to profit and benefit from the consumer, meeting the consumer's needs. So the more that, our we push, us, you and me, push on the ground for, I kind of don't want to pay $5 a gallon at the gas station. I kind of want to be able to afford a hybrid or, an all electric vehicle, but I can't. The more we push for that, and the more, we maybe the less we use our cars and things like that, and the more these executives and these business people are aware of that, the more they're likely to, change their habits and change their production value and change their products so that ultimately they can meet the consumer's needs. And then what we have is, more of a balanced situation where we're buying what we want, and that's sustainable, and they're um, able to benefit from that as well.
Right. So may I translate a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. so สำหรับแฟนๆคนไทยนะคะโหคิมเบอรรี่เขาฉลาดมากแล้วก็ถามคำถามยากๆเขาเนาะอะไรอย่างเงี้ยนะโดยเฉพาะเอ่เรื่องเกี่ยวกับเอ่ออนุรักษ์ธรรมชาตินะคะคุณคิมเบอรรี่เนี่ยเขาสนใจมากๆคือเรื่องน้ำมันเนาะน้ำมันที่ไหลสู่ทะเลเนี่ยคือแบบอย่างเช่นน้ำมันรั่วแบบว่าแท่นขุดเจาะน้ำมันอะไรพวกเนี้ยแล้วมันเกิดทำให้แบบว่าสัตว์ทะเลตายแล้วทำให้สิ่งแวดล้อมมันแย่เนาะก็ได้ถามเขาหลายๆอย่างนะคะคราวนี้มาคำถามก็ถามว่าจะยังไงอะว่าเนี่ยพอเวลาพวกบริษัทใหญ่ๆใช่ไหมคือคนที่เดือดร้อนนะคือประชาชนอย่างเราเนี่ยที่มันไม่มีแรงจะไปสู้กับพวกบริษัทใหญ่ๆซึ่งแบบเขารั่วแล้วรั่วอีกอะไรอย่างเงี้ยใช่ไหมแล้วพอเวลารั่วพอแล้วเขามีงบขึ้นมากำจัดมันก็แนวโน้มเนี่ยเขาก็จะพุชมาทางคัสเตอร์อย่างเราก็คืออาจจะราคาน้ำมันขึ้น ซึ่งก็ถามว่าในฐานะที่เขาเนี่ยเป็นนักอนุรักษ์เนาะแล้วในฐานะที่เขาก็เป็นคนที่สนใจเรื่อง oil leak โดยเฉพาะนะปัญหาแล้วเป็นนักกฎหมายด้วยใช่ไหมแล้วเป็นแบบนักสิทธิมนุษยชนด้วยนะคะคุณคิมเบอรรี่ก็เลยถามว่าเนี่ยเขามีวิธีมุมมองไงแก้ปัญหายังไงเนาะคุณคิมเบอรรี่บอกมันก็เป็นปัญหาจริงๆนะเพราะว่าคือบริษัทใหญ่พวกเนี้ยคือพอแล้วปัญหาเนี่ยคือเขาก็พยายามมาหาคนเบลมซึ่งแบบหันไปทางไหนไม่เจอก็คือว่าเป็นผู้บริโภคปลายทางอย่างเรานี่แหละเขาก็บอกว่ามันก็ไม่โอเคหรอกนะเหมือนกับแบบฉันจะต้องจ่ายเงินเพิ่มน้ำมันเพื่อนี้เป็นเขาว่าเขาเลือกที่จะใช้เชื้อเพลิงทางเลือกดีกว่าอย่างเช่นเป็นไฮบริดอะไรพวกนี้นะครับอันนี้เขาก็บอกเนาะอันนี้ก็เลยถามเขานะเพราะเขาเป็นทนายความนะก็เลยถามเขามุมมองหลายๆอย่างนะเพราะเขาจะมีข้อกฎหมายมีอะไรแล้วก็ได้เห็นเคสเขาบอกว่าแล้วเห็นว่าจำเป็นไหมว่าจะต้องแบบจัดเก็บภาษีสิ่งแวดล้อมให้ทุกกิจการเลยทั้งโลกเนี่ยคุณคิมเบอรรี่คิดว่าคุณคิมเบอรรี่บอกว่าในอเมริกานี่นะโดยเฉพาะรัฐที่เขาอยู่นะคือน่าจะเป็นแคลิฟอร์เนียนะครับก็คือว่าเขาไม่ได้แบบว่าเป็นค่าปรับนะแต่เขาเป็น tax credit ก็คือสมมุตินะคุณทำกิจการนี้ใช่ไหมเขาก็จะมีเรทสิ่งแวดล้อมเนี่ยถ้าสมมุติคุณเสีย tax นี้ใช่ไหมโดน tax นี้คุณเอามาเรียกเทิร์น tax credit ได้คุณเป็นลดหย่อนด้านอื่นมันก็ทำให้คนมีแรงใจที่จะรักษาสิ่งแวดล้อมเนี่ยซึ่งก็มองว่าดีนะในนี้ก็เลยอยากให้นะว่าเป็นไอเดียสำหรับประเทศแบบทางเอเชียเนาะของเราถ้าสมมติว่าวันหนึ่งเรามีกำลังมากพอนะคะเราจะได้มีงบมารักษาสิ่งแวดล้อมนะเพราะว่าสิ่งแวดล้อมเนี่ยเป็นสิ่งสำคัญเพราะว่าคุณคิมเบอรรี่ก็บอกว่าเนี่ยอย่างออยลีฟเนี่ยนะมันทำให้ปลาเนี่ยก็มีผลมันมิวเทสได้เพราะว่ายังไงเจอสารพิษใช่ไหมครับน้ำเนิ้มเสียหมดพอเรากินปลาเข้าไปเราก็ได้รับสารพิษเราก็เป็นโรคได้คือตรงนี้มันต่อเนื่องกันไปหมดนะคะแล้วคราวนี้ก็คุณคิมเบอรรี่เนี่ยแกร่วมกับมูลนิธิด้วยนะช่วยเขาเรียกอะไรนะคะผู้ที่ลี้ภัยนะจากแดนสงครามอย่างเช่นอันนี้ไอซิสอะไรเงี้ยผู้หญิงนะก็เลยถามนะประเด็นตรงนี้เนาะว่าเนี่ยแบบประเทศส่วนใหญ่เนี่ยบางทีเขาไม่รับเนาะเพราะเขาจะมีมุมมองที่แบดบางทีก็ผลักเรือกลับออกไปนอกชอบ้างอะไรเงี้ยในฐานะที่เขาประสบกับคนเหล่านี้โดยตรงเนี่ยเขามีอะไรที่จะพูดให้กับประเทศที่ผู้ลี้ภัยเหล่านี้เขาหนีร้อนไปพึ่งเย็นเนาะคือเขาบอกว่าอยากให้มีความเมตตานะครับอยากให้มีความเมตตามากๆมันไม่มีใครหรอกที่อยากจะหนีออกจากบ้านนะแต่ว่าคือเขาหนีความตายหนีสงครามหนีอะไรหลายๆอย่างมาก็อยากให้มีความเมตตาแล้วก็ที่สำคัญขอให้อะไรเข้าใจเขานิดนึงว่าเขามาต่างถิ่นคราวนี้มารยาทหรือความเข้าใจในวัฒนธรรมในที่ใหม่เนี่ยเขาก็ไม่มีใช่ไหมครับก็เลยถามเพราะว่าแล้วอย่างเงี้ยมันมีคล้ายๆที่แคมป์หรืออะไรเงี้ยมันมีการฝึกสอนไหมให้รู้จักมารยาทสมมุติถ้าเขาไปอยู่ที่ประเทศหนึ่งเขารู้จักไหมมารยาทนี้ไม่ควรทำขยะไม่ควรทิ้งอะไรอย่างเงี้ยเขาบอกมันก็มีบ้างและไม่มีบ้างเพราะว่ามีทั้งคนมาแบบถูกต้องกับไม่ถูกต้องคราวนี้มันก็เลยแบบยังมันไม่สามารถจะเมนได้100%แต่คราวนี้เขาก็บอกว่าคือขอให้มีความเมตตาเนาะให้เห็นอกเห็นใจกันแล้วก็คือเหมือนค่อยๆให้ความรู้กันไปวันหนึ่งมันก็จะเข้าข่ายร่วมมือกันได้นะคะก็ถามคุณคิมเบอรรี่หลายเรื่องเนาะเพราะคุณคิมเบอรรี่เนี่ยแกทำหลายอย่างเป็นทั้งเป็นนักสื่อสารมวลชนด้วยนะคะเป็นสื่อสารมวลชนด้วยเป็นสื่อสารมวลชนทางด้านกฎหมายโดยเขียนเกี่ยวกับเรื่อง climate change ด้วยนะเป็นบอร์ดนะคุณคิมเบอรรี่เนี่ยคือเรียนจบรัฐศาสตร์นะครับที่ซานดิเอโกนะคะno UCLA right UCLA graduate นะคะ
Yes.
คือจบ UCLA นะครับด้านรัฐศาสตร์นะครับแล้วก็ต่อด้านกฎหมาย Juris Doctor นะครับที่U of San Diego นะดังนะเพราะฉะนั้นเนี่ยจะมีแบบเป็นคนที่ฉลาดนะกว้างไกลมากๆนะครับก็เลยถามเขาเยอะเนาะหลายเรื่องนะเรื่องข้อกฎหมายของเขานะคะ also Kimberly also I heard that you actually is the founder of Oceana Project. Would you mind to describe what is all about and what is going to contribute, or actually is already contribute to the society or the surrounding they have implemented at the moment?
So I founded Oceana Project this past year, and it's an initiative that was in response to the Huntington Beach oil spill in October. So as a native Southern Californian, I was really devastated. This is really something that shouldn't be happening anymore. So I started out on this initiative, and my goal was to help with the relief efforts initially. So I actually put on a 5K this past, I believe it was last month. I'm trying to think. I'm so busy. Okay, November. Yeah, November. I put on the 5K. I partnered with One Digital World, which is a great organization in San Diego. Casey, she's the founder. She's great. She's actually a USD alum as well, and her organization helps with digital literacy for refugees. So I kind of combined my two passions into one. And so it was called Walk for Wildlife, Run for Refugees 5K. And all the proceeds went to, half went to her organization for refugee education. And then the other half went to Pacific Marine Mammal Center in Laguna Beach. And that organization was at the forefront of the cleanup efforts with the spill. So initially, I really wanted to get my hands dirty and get in there. I emailed the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. I mean, I was emailing everybody. Look, I really want to get involved. I want to help out. But they were just influx with volunteers, and I think there was something with regulations where they just wanted government trained volunteers that were already there to help out. But I figured I still can help. So Pacific Marine Mammal Center was one of the organizations at the forefront of receiving oiled wildlife and help cleaning them and rehabilitating them. So I was able to donate quite a bit to them, which was great to help with the relief effort. And then we also were able to pick up, I think it was 5 huge bags of trash along the way. So we kind of really went full throttle with the environmental approach to the 5K. And since then, I've been actively involved in certain town hall meetings. I attended the Surfrider Foundation's town hall meeting about oil spills and offshore oil drilling laws. And I plan to actually hold an Instagram live soon with my sister queen, Emma Loney, who's Miss Oklahoma and Miss Oklahoma Earth, and she's also a law student. So we're kind of gathering together, and we want to educate people more about these laws and how they can help change. So I'm really excited to keep continuing my work with Oceana Project. It's been really fun. It's been successful so far. And like I said, with oil spills, it's really no end. I mean, until there's laws that ban offshore oil drilling, these accidents are going to happen in the future. So it's been a great experience so far, and I'm really excited to do more in the future.
Right. And let me know about your new appointment. What is it?
What was
You
the
has
new appointment?
not a new actually. You was appointed as a global
Oh, yes.
ambassador for the organization. Is it? So what is it? Tell the fan, please.
Yes. So I was appointed a global ambassador for the Clean Trails organization. Clean Trails organization is an amazing organization. So they actually founded National Cleanup Day, which happened this past year already. But it's a huge effort. It's global, where they encourage everybody around the world to go out and pick up trash, of course, safely, and clean up our environment. So I was able to, because of the beach cleanups and the different trail cleanups I'm involved in, I spoke with the founder and I said, I want to be more involved. I want to, spread more awareness about the importance of what you guys do and what we do, and encourage others to pick up litter and just make our earth a cleaner place. So he said, sure, I'd love to have you as a global ambassador. So essentially, I support everything that they do, and every time I'm out there, picking up trash and cleaning up our environment, I'm really representing clean trails in a sense, and I'm making sure that the word gets out, to and participate in these efforts.
Right. So, you got so many substance indeed. I think, we can talk the whole day, whole night, and so many knowledge. But anyway, I would like to touch a little bit. What is your goal in joining Miss Earth USA this time?
My goal is to spread more awareness to offshore oil drilling and oil spills off all of our coasts in the world, but it's also to develop the Miss USA, or sorry, Miss Earth USA platform and a much stronger level. So I really respect the Miss Earth USA's mission. It's something that I was really drawn to originally because, as you can tell, I'm very charity motivated. I've always loved volunteering for organizations and advocating for different issues. So the fact that Miss Earth USA is so involved, I mean, I say that very sincerely. I've seen so many amazing projects that these women have done, these title holders, and I see the great environmentalism that the organization advocates for. And so I really just want to continue that legacy and build on it. I want to build my project, Oceana Project, from a state to a national level. I want to bring more people out to participate in boots on the ground environmentalism, but also to elevate it, use my legal background to elevate it to the national level and make sure that we get, signatures on those environmentalism bills that we need in the legislature. So to elevate the Miss Earth USA organization, which I believe it so deserves, and to utilize that platform to the best I can.
Mm. So, would you feel under duress if you're going to succeed, Melissa Page Butler as a Miss Earth USA because she performed really well. She earned Miss Earth Air 2021. So, if one day you're going to win, would you find it so challenging to succeed such a wonderful and successful ladies?
What would be my biggest challenge?
Yeah,
Is that
to succeed her as a Miss Earth USA.
Oh, yeah, Marissa is a hard one to succeed for sure. So I have so much respect for her. I've had the great privilege of being able to work with her nonprofit We Clean Trails. So I see her almost every weekend, and I really have so much respect for her. I mean, she's so smart, she's beautiful, she's really hardworking, and she really means what she says. I mean, she puts the work in. That's something she prides herself in, and that's something I really admire about her. So she's definitely a hard one to succeed, but I do hope to succeed her, and I want to make her proud. And I think that's what's so great about Miss Earth USA is that it elevates these women who are so accomplished, and they're not just beautiful, but they're really doing the work for environmentalism, and that's ultimately what all of our goals should be here is to further Miss Earth USA in order to further our Earth. And so I think Marissa definitely set the bar high. I see somebody said that in the chat. But I hope to keep it at that level and make sure that Miss Earth USA just keeps going up from here.
Right. So, as far as we conversing, I think you probably would agree that now for our young generation to come, would adopt awareness of conserving or um, loving the earth more, like like one of the habit. I mean, one of
Mm-hmm.
the founding habit in every everyone. Would you agree? I mean, because now today, or even in the past, especially in my country, when you're considering about environmental issue, it's probably a bit too far away. We hardly think of it. Probably the last we try to look at something in handy. Okay, first like what would we going to eat today, and we wouldn't mind to eat something that probably would hurt environment more somehow. So would you mind to say something to encourage everyone to adopt conserving the environment as their habit?
Ultimately, when we help the environment, we're helping ourselves. And when we help ourselves, we're helping the environment. It really is true. So when
Mm,
we cherish ourselves and our bodies, what we put into our bodies, and also what we're giving out, how we're disposing of our waste. This is what's, in ultimately transforming our surroundings. We don't want to live, I don't think anybody wants to live in a environment full of litter. I don't think anybody wants to live in the midst of pollution. So it's really for all of our benefits. If you can't find it within yourself to be empathetic towards these causes, it's definitely in your benefit to encourage environmentalism. But I would say that I'm actually very encouraged because I see over the past, I think as you said, over the past few years, decade or so, people have more, the younger generations have embraced this mindset in that recycling isn't, maybe just for example, recycling isn't something that, oh, maybe I'll do, I don't know, it's too much work. A lot of people just do it. A lot of people are just, it's just a common kind of a societal shift towards, championing environmentalism. So I think we're ultimately headed in that positive direction. But I think ultimately for people who are still reluctant to move in that direction, I would say it will benefit you if you benefit the environment and vice versa.
right. Okay. So before we going, Kimberly, I think we already passed this this question because I asked before, but Mark probably show up later, so he wouldn't catch up what we're talking. Would you mind to repeat answering? How will your job help you with your advocacy in winning research? Okay.
My job is about advocacy. I'm an advocate. That's what I do for a living. So I would say that I have pretty strong skill set in being able to convince people or make arguments in that regard and be persuasive. But I also think my ability every day to see different viewpoints and empathize with different people and, the different choices they make in their lives, that's really, a strong skill to have, and it's a quality in myself that I think will really help me. That my job actually sharpens as well is that ability to look at things from all different perspectives and ultimately see what's best for everybody involved and advocate for that strongly, argue for that strongly, and persist until that prevails.
Mm. Oh, Kimberly, I have to say that our talk is very joyous experience I've had. I really enjoying. It's
Thank
very
you.
substantive but entertaining. And also I got a very wide ranging view on many issues because you got very broad horizon on many issues like immigration, human rights, women rights, and environmental issue. I think I'm so lucky indeed to have you interview in my program, and also it's like a tradition for my guests. Would you mind to shout out to all your admirer worldwide to support my page KP1 Worldwide and YouTube KP1 Worldwide and my IG Go Panasa, and definitely I wish you to follow me as well after the end of the show.
I think I do follow you. I think I
Oh,
did follow
really?
you, but
Oh,
yes,
really?
yeah,
It's
I'm pretty sure I
appreciate it.
do.
Okay.
Of course. But yeah, no, I'll thank you so much for everybody joining. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Co, for having me. This is my first live, so it was really exciting, and I really appreciate that we did a deep dive into so many different important topics. That's so important. And thank you everyone for watching and supporting me and Co. She does amazing things, really quality interviewer. So I wish you all the best of luck and follow her. Follow her today if you aren't already.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And before we go, I would love to tell all the fans again about her, awesome quality because she also a diver. Okay, she actually San Diego native, so she loved this, the ocean. She freely dive off off the beach, of the San Diego beach, and also she used to play softball. So and also her cousin is actually the professional baseball player. So she's not ordinary, okay, according to okay. So all the fans appreciate it for your participation today, even though in Thailand and in Asia is daytime in the mid of the day. But Kimberly, congratulations, we got 600 something, okay, 640 something watcher, okay, and watch our program and watching you, and at the peak point, that to 1,200 something watching and seeing you, and I wish
Yay.
that you would gain more exposure, and also please spread your message, because I totally agree that all your message is very very constructive. So I wish all the fans to follow Kimberly Keen, okay, Miss Alaska Earth USA 2022, along her Miss Earth USA journey. And according to what I'm talking to her, I'm very, very positive. She's going to do really well. Okay.
Oh, thank you
So,
so much.
Kimberly, many people just talk to me that I got a curse, because most of my guests end up winning as a crowd winner.
That's not a curse, that's a blessing. It's good
Yes,
fortune.
it's a blessing. It's a blessing. So I wish that you're going to be one of those. Okay, one of those.
I hope so.
Thank you indeed for today. All right,
Thank you so
Kimberly.
much. I really appreciate it.
We would see you later on next time. Probably when you're winning โอเคสำหรับแฟนๆนะคะต้องขอบคุณในการติดตามนะคะวันนี้นะคะแบบว่าได้ประโยชน์มากๆเลยนะครับก็ขอให้สนับสนุนคุณคิมเบอร์รี่คีนนะคะผู้สมัครมิสเอิร์ธจาก阿拉斯ก้านะแต่งแน่นอนนะคะจากที่คุยนะเก่งมากๆนะคะแบบพร้อมทุกอย่างนะคะขอให้สนับสนุนไปตลอดนะคะก็สนับสนุนได้คุณคิมเบอร์รี่นะคะได้ที่นี่นะคะ IG นะคะ Kimberly Keen Official นะครับ IG ของคุณ Kimberly นะครับก็
Oh,
ตาม
I just want to correct for 1 second. I think my
Yes.
Instagram is Kim Keen Official, not Kimberly Keen Official. I think it's
Oh,
Kim
sorry.
Keen.
Kim Keen, is it? Not Kimberly.
Yes. I believe it's KIM and then KEEN official, but yes, you almost got it.
Is it? This one?
Yes, it's that. That's correct.
โอเคสำหรับแฟนๆก็ขอโทษด้วยนะครับอันนี้นะ IG ที่ถูกต้องนะครับคือ Kim Keen Official นะครับยังไงฝากติดตามคุณ Kimberly Keen นะครับ Miss Alaska Earth USA นะครับอีกครั้งนะครับชื่อนะครับ Kimberly Keen นะครับแล้วก็ตำแหน่งนะครับMiss Alaska Earth USA นะครับนะก็เป็นกำลังใจ so when is going to be the coronation night for Miss Earth USA 2022
So the week is the January 3rd week. So I forget the exact day. I think it's the 8th. I think it's the 6th or the 8th. It might be the 6th, but it's that first week of January. So watch out for that first week of January.
Okay, I will stay tuned, up to the screen,
Yes.
okay? I tell you the fact.
I believe
so,
it's streamed on Pageants Live.
Pageant Live. Okay,
Yeah.
right. สำหรับแฟนๆนะครับคือวันชิงนะครับ Miss USA ก็คือคุณคิมเบอรี่บอกว่าน่าจะเป็นวันที่8นะไม่6ก็8มกราที่จะถึงนี้นะคะแล้วก็จะสตรีมทาง Pageant Live นะคะนะครับก็คือยังไงฝากติดตามคุณคิมเบอรี่นะเป็นกำลังใจให้คุณคิมเบอรี่ด้วยนะครับไม่ผิดหวังแน่นอนถ้าเชียร์แล้วไม่อกหักก็ต้องเชียร์แขกของโก้นะครับเต็งมงทุกคนนะครับมารายการโก้แล้วมีแต่มงนะยังไงต้องขอบคุณการสนับสนุนสำหรับแฟนๆวันนี้นะครับแล้วก็อย่าลืมเย็นนี้นะครับและติดตามชมกับMiss Grand กาฬสินธุ์2022นะครับน้องทีน่านะธนาวันวิกนะครับนะไม่พลาดแน่นอนเวลา 20:00 นประเทศไทยนะครับขอบคุณมากครับ Hi thank you indeed Kimberly Keen
Thank
and
you so much.
yeah, and your organization as well. I wish you the best of luck. Okay,
Thank you
and
so much. I wish you luck too in your program. It's awesome. This is amazing what you do.
okay, thank you, Indy. Just spread your kind word of me to your beauty queen
Of
peers.
course.
So probably they might like to be interviewed by me at the end. Okay, if you
Of course.
promote me.
Okay. I will.
Okay, all right. Thank you indeed. So see you next time. Okay, all the fans
Thank
worldwide.
you, everybody.
เย้ขอบคุณมากนะคะสวัสดีนะคะสวัสดีค่ะสวัสดีค่ะ